we have the opportunity to talk to the promoter, the owner of one of the biggest indies in the country. You can find them at Beyond Wrestling on Twitter, Beyond Wrestling on Instagram, the Beyond Wrestling Facebook page. And if you're looking for a website, beyondwrestlingonline.com, we are talking to Drew Cordiero, or as he is also known, Denver, Colorado, the man, not the place. How are you doing today, Drew?
Dude, I'm pumped. We had a big show last night.
Yeah. I was able to watch it. I got back from vacation, so I was able to watch it on IWTV this morning, and it was great. Was this the first show you guys were doing with the whole sponsorship program?
This is the first week that we introduced the wrestler sponsorship program, and it was a huge success. We had 15 wrestlers sponsored out of the approximately 30 that competed last night. And on top of that, we had the biggest turnout that we've ever had in Wrestling Open history, with 296 fans buying tickets at the door. So it was overwhelmingly positive experience last night.
That's amazing. Now, where did the wrestling sponsorship idea come from?
So the way that it works with Wrestling Open, and this is very important, is typically, right, fans buy tickets, they go to a show. The part that the fans interact and see, that we try to the best of our ability to make just like a normal independent wrestling show. But infrastructurally, it's very different. The way that Wrestling Open is run, the way that it's different than Beyond Wrestling and pretty much any other wrestling organization out there, is the concept is based on an open mic night. So instead of me reaching out to the wrestlers to book them on the show, the wrestlers sign up to compete on the show. And from there, the Wrestling Open officials see a list of everybody that's available for the week, and they put the cards together week after week. Sometimes we have seminars, sometimes we have tryout matches. But the groups are private. Obviously, we vet who's going to be competing, whether it's a recommendation from somebody else on the roster or seeing a tryout in person or seeing some footage. But we know that it's professionally trained athletes that are going to be coming to compete. But as a result, with Uncharted Territory Season 3, which we did last year in Worcester, I noticed that certain wrestlers were getting paid a premium, and they weren't maybe as popular as some of the wrestlers that were just cutting their teeth, or they weren't promoting their appearances. And so Wrestling Open completely levels the playing field. Every single performer gets an equal cut of the gate. So if you're on the show, it doesn't matter what your level of experience is, how many matches you've had, everybody's participating. It's a team effort. Where the wrestler sponsorships come into play is that when an individual athlete gets sponsored, they get taken out of the pool essentially for the gate split. So not only does that wrestler get taken care of with a guarantee from the sponsor, but now there's more money to go around for the other performers that don't get sponsored. So yesterday was a rousing success. It's the most everybody's ever gotten paid for performing for Wrestling Open. And we had not only did we have a large crowd, we had a large roster to work with too. So given those circumstances, this is something we'll be doing every week.
Brilliant. That's amazing to hear. And it's good to hear that the whole idea behind it is to take care of the talent. Because I think a lot of times in wrestling, the complaint you'll hear is about the pay and about how people don't necessarily feel it's fair. But here, it's set up in a way to be nothing but fair for everyone involved.
Sure. And like when the idea was first launched, like some people kind of took it out of context and said, oh, this is a way for Beyond Wrestling, to get away from paying talent. And the idea was not to not pay people. It's just with the idea of a guarantee. If one wrestler is commanding a $500, $1,000 fee plus a flight plus a hotel, you have a certain budget that you have to work with. And that's other money that can't go to other performers that may be there week in and week out. So the idea was to try and find wrestlers, especially in the early stages of their career, because we had people showing up every single week for free, not even to wrestle, just to set up the ring. And it's like, I can't put these guys and girls on uncharted territory because the expectations are different for a weekly super indie show. So let's come up with a new idea. And if everybody gets a cut of the gate, something's better than nothing. That was my thought process. But I never thought that the platform would take off where, we would have wrestlers like Wheeler Yuta or Mace Aruga passing through because they were in town for another, promotion, wanted to do a seminar, make some extra money. And there's no special favors. Everybody still gets an equal cut of the gate, but they are passionate performers that then want to give back because they know what the Beyond Wrestling platform has done for them in the past. And since this is the new idea, they want to make sure that this platform is going to be viable for years to come so we can help the next generation of wrestlers.
And I really like what you just said, like it's an open mic night. And it's just funny how, like you said, like with comedians, because in like those Laugh Factories and some of those famous comedy nightclubs, you would have all these people start up, but you have like a Dave Chappelle who walks in sometimes just to hone his craft. So like you have real you to just, okay, I'm going to stay sharp. I'm in the area. And, it really is. It's just like the open night.
So, I mean, the scene has changed, if you want to work, this is the circumstances, but people sign up to Beyond. So it's not like, oh, I tricked you. And then, it's a different set of circumstances. It's like, the deal. If you want to participate, you can. If not, there's going to be other people that are going to want to participate. And we've seen wrestlers like Alec Price, Ichiban, Dustin Waller, Kylon King, Ray Jazz. Ray Jazz, I got my Ray Jazz shirt on.
Nice.
Fancy Ryan Clancy, Becca Little Mean Kathleen, Teddy Goods. I mean, the list goes on and on of wrestlers that have raised their stock exponentially by participating. Bobby Orlando, Bryce Donovan, by participating with Wrestling Open since we started at the start of 2022.
Nice. Now, I started off with a different question than we usually hit him with. Dave, do you want to hit him with old reliable?
Oh, sure. The old generic. I think he probably any interview you've done. Were you always a fan? How did you break in? What was your fandom like? And what eventually got you to the business side?
No, this is a cool question. So I liked it growing up. And then I actually remember in 96, one night I was watching it with my parents and Jim. It was when they were kind of switching over to plant the seats for the Attitude Era stuff. And I remember Jim Cornette saying some pretty negative things about Sonny. And I just remember being there with my parents and being like, I'm kind of embarrassed to watch this, being 11 years old. And I stopped watching for a while. I got really into hockey and video games. But when I went to high school, a lot of my friends were talking about wrestling. And I was so into hockey, believe it or not. I know this sounds so ridiculous, but one of my friends was like, well, who do you think would win in a fight? Steve Austin or Goldberg? I knew Steve Austin because I like WWF. I thought when he said Goldberg, I thought he meant the referee from the Mighty Ducks. Why would those guys ever fight? And then it was like, no, Goldberg's a wrestler, WCW. And I was like, oh, this is wrestling I've never even heard of. So my buddies were really into all of the fringe activities that surround wrestling, like being on the message boards, doing the e-feds, doing the tape trading. And, they were like, wow, there's wrestling. It's on the indies. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I know they have wrestling in Japan. So, of course, they have wrestling in the West Indies, not knowing that it meant independent wrestling. I was clueless. But my buddies were really okay, let's do backyard wrestling. And then we started traveling from doing backyard wrestling. And, we went to the first Ring of Honor show in Massachusetts. And that was an eye-opening experience. I had went to college at Emerson College for a degree with integrated marketing communications, emphasis on special event promotion. So I had the education to lay the groundwork for wanting to promote wrestling events. But where it really all kicked off is I kind of parlayed that into an internship with Kaiju Big Battle. And with Kaiju Big Battle, they were trying to expand more into a wrestling audience. Through that, I was kind of able to start working with Chikara. And at the same time, I was still kind of doing these backyard shows. And it was just weird. I kept coming across people that were professionally trained. Somebody like Jay Lethal was doing a backyard wrestling match. And it was just I don't understand. He's a champion in Ring of Honor. Why would he want to go do this? And it's because when you go to Ring of Honor, somebody's there telling you what to do. When you do backyard wrestling, you get to pick how you want to present yourself. You have the creative freedom. So I was like, okay, what if we take all professional wrestlers, we get a ring, we get a training facility, and what if we just do backyard wrestling, but everybody's trained? And that was kind of how Beyond Wrestling started. So that was in 2009. I had moved out to Ohio at the time with Ricky Shane Page. He was my roommate to kind of start Beyond Wrestling. We thought it was just going to be a little side project to another promotion that was running shows out there at the time called Hybrid Wrestling. Kind of all stopped working together shortly thereafter. And it was 2 years before we started running our own live events. We did our first show in July of 2011 in Danbury, Connecticut. And even then, at the time, it was oh, well, you see companies like Dragon Gate USA and Ring of Honor and Chikara, and they're touring the country. So in my mind, it was well, that's what we need to do. And then when we saw the success of PWG just doing monthly shows out of one venue, then that's when things really took off, and we found our home in Providence for a couple of years. We did our first American Rana in July 2013, and it's been off to the races ever since.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see you guys grow throughout the years. Like, I've collected the DVDs, and you can see, I believe it might have been one of the old Feud DVDs, Biff Busick, Eddie Edwards, or something like that. You can see like an old warehouse facility. And then you can see, I believe my buddy Scott told me about an American Rana you did at FET, where a guy jumped from the balcony into the ring, ruining the soundboard. And I'm like, I have to see this. And then getting to see you guys do a show at Electric Haze, and then moving to where you are now with the White Eagle. I like that you guys really kind of, pick a spot and try and make that spot your home base and give it like a feeling.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, White Eagle has been incredible partners. And I mean, we're actually going to be launching a wrestling school with Ken Doane and Thomas Santel, who both competed for WWE. That's going to be coming the first week of January 2023. So now we're going to kind of be able to do something that nobody else in wrestling has, is we can start people at the Beyond Institute of Pro Wrestling is the name of the school, Bio Pro Wrestling. Start there. And then with Wrestling Open, being that it's an open mic night, we do a lot of shorter matches. So it's a great platform for newer wrestlers to be able to get experience in front of a live crowd. Again, because the expectations aren't, oh my God, this is going to, a PWG style show where, there's expectations of seeing 20, 25-minute matches. It's okay to do a 2 or 3 minute match and kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work. Like you said, the open mic night in comedy, you kind of work on your material in front of a live crowd. Then we're going to be doing the monthly Beyond Wrestling Super Shows. That's going to be a more high-pressure environment. There's certainly going to be higher expectations in terms of the quality of the performances, and there won't be as many performers, so that'll be a little bit more of a premium event. But then on top of that, we also are hand in hand with IWTV, which does international live distribution for independent wrestling, literally all around the globe. So then we look to our partner promotions, and at that point, there's only one place to go, and that's national TV. So it's awesome that we finally got this plan in place to be able to basically start to finish in terms of a wrestler's career before they get to TV.
Nice. Now, you've talked about it a little already, but when you started, what was the vision / goal of Beyond, and how has that changed and kind of morphed as time's gone on?
Well, it was about the wrestlers first and foremost. It was making sure that the wrestlers felt what's the word that I want to say? Like a sense of ownership over what they were doing.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think when we introduced fans and started selling tickets, it became about making sure that we were putting the fans first and foremost. And I think the pendulum kind of swung a little bit into the direction of, if we're making the fans happy, then maybe we're not keeping the wrestlers happy. And I think with Wrestling Open, we've really found that balance again, where it's when the wrestlers show up because they want to be there, what is it that they want to get out of their performance that is going to help them advance their career, but knowing that they also have to make sure that the fans are happy and that the fans feel like they're getting a good value. Because at the end of the day, if the fans aren't there to support, you can't go anywhere with your career. So the two comes hand in hand, and it's tough finding the balance, especially trying to find the balance with not only the people that are buying tickets, but also the people that are watching online. Because there's, as we discovered last night, there were people all over the world watching from Japan since we had the Gato Move tag team in. And whether they were watching for the first time, I mean, that opens opportunities for even their opponents, Brother Greatness, Anastasia Morningstar, just to be in the same ring with a Japanese wrestling stars. So again, when Beyond Wrestling first started, it was like, well, we were doing shows without even having fans ringside. The wrestlers were just wrestling for each other. We were taping it, putting it online. So it was, how do you want to present yourself so that if somebody sees this, you can get an opportunity as yourself? I'll give a great example. Somebody like Drew Gulak, who had a number of different personas and a number of different kind of storylines in different places. but it was always kind of a wink and a nod, presented as a humorous character. When he finally reinvented himself in Beyond Wrestling as the University City Stretcher, that's that technical style of wrestling that he made proficient, that basically set the trends for an entire decade. He was always capable of it, but he needed to be an ant, or he needed to be a politician. He was never able to be this technician in the ring. But when you come to Beyond Wrestling, it's like, hey, what do you want to do? And we're trying to get back that with Wrestling Open. Because again, as the Beyond shows and the audience got bigger, it was, hey, this is how we need to format the shows in order to satisfy the fans. And now, because the expectations have changed a little bit, because the format has changed, we can still put on a good show while allowing the wrestlers to present themselves the way that they want to. You know, a lot of the guidelines and the restrictions have to do with stuff to better prepare them for future opportunities. So, for example, you know, one of our rules is like no obscene gestures, right? Sometimes it gets broken, but if you make it to TV and you accidentally let an F-bomb slip, you're going to get fined. You're going to get suspended. You might even get fired. You might get, you know, in trouble with the network. So those are the kind of things where it's like, okay, figure out how you want to present yourself, what it is that you want to do, but these are the restrictions. And I don't think that it takes away from the show. And I think if last night was any indication, we can really still give the freedom to the wrestlers while also making sure that the fans are getting a more than satisfactory, you know, between the energy, between the engagement. I mean, there's nothing like being at the shows live. It's cool watching on IWTV. IWTV does a good job, but to be able to be there in person, feeling that energy, there's no way that you can leave without a big smile on your face, wanting to come back. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and
True.
we've been to some of the shows, like Dave, we've been to the Fans Bring the Weapons,
Oh, yeah.
New Year's Eve shows that have been out of control. And it's, like you said, it's one thing to watch it on there, but to be in the crowd, to hear how everybody reacts, to have to get out of the way of glass, barbed wire, like things like that. It's a Beyond show is an experience. And if you haven't been, you have to go. If you're in the New England area, there's no reason not to.
And the fans are the show, right? After the show was over last night, I thanked everybody for coming. But this is the reality. The more people that come, the more elevated the energy in the room is, the more risks that the wrestlers are willing to take to entertain, the better the show is. And then the better the show is, the more people are going to want to come. But it's like the chicken or the egg. You know, you have to have the fans there first. Once the fans are there, that's when the show is going to get elevated. And it's kind of off to the races at that point. But if people aren't coming, you know, you can only get so much. You know, it's just that the energy is something you can't quantify, but you can feel it.
Drew, I think it's interesting. I just wanted to say this because like it's business, but you're making it so simple in a lot of ways. Like just keep everybody happy. Find a way you get the fans happy, you get the people, the sponsorship, everybody gets paid, so we all get a little bit something. But now people, their energy's up, they want to contribute more, and it's creating like this awesome work environment.
Yeah, I mean it's hard, and that's where it's an expert job between myself and the other people that put the program together. It's like it's really, really difficult keeping everybody happy and trying to strike that proper balance, because everybody has their own ideas as far as what they want to do.
Right.
You know, one of the best ways that I can put it is an individual show is like a book, and then each match is like a chapter. So imagine a scenario where each chapter has a separate author, because the wrestlers themselves are kind of working with their own material. But then somebody needs to take all of those chapters written by separate authors and then make sure that there's an overarching story for the entire book. That's the really big challenge on an independent level, because if we're the ones that just are saying, hey, this is what everybody has to do every match, then everybody becomes interchangeable. There's nobody special. There's no, you know, when you have somebody like Bobby Orlando that comes through the curtain and he has his own custom theme song and he has this outrageous outfit and he's got his little stuff go and he seems a little off kilter and he's, you know, calling people bish and saying, I'm your mom. It's just like me describing that, it makes it sound corny as hell. When you see him in person and you see the performance and it all comes together, I can't tell somebody, hey, you know what, you actual Bobby Orlando, you know, this isn't working with you. You go do something different, and we're going to take Brother of Greatness and we're going to give him the Bobby Orlando gimmick. Bobby Orlando is Bobby Orlando. Brother of Greatness is Brother of Greatness. The attributes that make them special are the attributes that they came up with. And so we want them to be able to be genuine to themselves. And so that's a super important component of it.
Now, you've had such great ideas through Beyond. You've done the weekly show. You've done, I mean, New Year's Eve shows aren't anything new, but Heavy Lies the Crown has set such a precedent. You've introduced Restival. Where do these great ideas come from? And are you nervous when kicking them off, like thinking they might not work?
Well, I mean,
because they've all seemed to hit.
Especially the Restival last year. I mean, the Restival last year was really tough because we kind of got hit with that third wave of COVID between like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So they don't always hit, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I try to be as transparent as possible with the fans, so they understand where their support's going. If we had a ton of money that we were sitting on, it's not like, oh, okay, haha, we're scamming the fans out of sponsorships and we're all getting rich off of this. Again, that's why I try and be as transparent as possible. The Restival didn't do well last year. In fact, we actually kind of waived all of the expenses for all of our partner promotions because we wanted to make sure that, they would be down for the idea under different set of circumstances. Is it a possibility this year that there could be last minute restrictions? Maybe. It's not as likely as last year. Obviously, we want to keep everybody safe. That's the number one priority when running a show. If everybody's safe, then everybody has a chance to be happy. But all of these ideas always, it's never like, let's satisfy one thing. It's let's look at the entire list of boxes and what is the idea that's going to check off the most. So when we do something with Restival, it's like, well, the fans in Worcester have been great to us at White Eagle. We get to bring some promotions to the area that have never been here before. That's special for them. But then we also get to have, an American Rana-size show with Heavy Lies the Crown. We get to do it at the end of the year, as we were mentioning before we went on air. One of the things that I've noticed over the years is that holidays are a great time to do wrestling shows. We do well with them. So now we get to bring a festival in conjunction with the end of the year when people have a lot of time off and, they've got a little bit of money coming in from the holidays. There's not that squeeze that there's other times of the year. We get to do a big streaming event for IWTV, which is again, none of this is possible without. So it's always a situation where it's not like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to just do this one thing? It's like, how can we accomplish these 10 different things with one idea? And that's kind of how the ideas come together. And that's really, again, going back to, the origin of Wrestling Open. I was looking at all the things that didn't work with Uncharted Territory Season 3 last year. And I said, how can we solve all of these problems? These are all of the tweaks that we made behind the scene. And I think that for the people that come to Wrestling Open, I don't think it feels that much different than Uncharted Territory. Maybe there's a few more matches. I think the match quality, absolutely. Like when you saw Wheeler Yuta versus Dustin Waller from last night, when you saw Best Bros versus Church of Greatness, the 8-man tag that kicked things off. There were some spectacular performances on the show. There might have been a little bit more matches and a couple shorter matches, but the energy stays up the whole time. So it's always, hey, what can we do to satisfy as many problems as possible? And those are kind of where the ideas come from.
Nice. Now, bringing up COVID, I know Dave is fascinated with wrestling companies that ran during COVID, and he always has a question about it. So, Dave, what are your COVID questions?
Yeah, interesting. Like, I mean, we've had people we've interviewed on this show before too, where they're authors, right? Okay, so you're an author. Well, now you have a ton of time, and it can be really great. Almost like, yeah, it sucks that this horrible thing's happening, but you can turn a negative into a positive. But for you, I mean, you have to run a venue. You're not getting like ticket sales or anything. Did you think about, like, okay, do we want to quit? Or, did that thought ever cross your mind? Or B, okay, so tell no. But, where does the creative process happen there? Do you just start thinking, okay, what can we do to get around this?
No, I'm a play it by the rules guy, man. I look, growing up, I used to get in trouble for everything. I didn't take a pencil to class. I'd be in detention. It's just my luck. I try and play by the rules. I think that when there's restrictions, if you can figure out how to make it work within them, then you'll be even more successful when restrictions get lifted. I'd said to some of my colleagues, I want to wait until a full month after somebody does the first show, because I want somebody else to kind of be the canary in the mine shaft to figure out what some of these problems are going to be. And we did a couple outdoor shows, and then we were going to do an indoor show as the weather got colder, and there was an uptick in COVID, and we had to cancel it, and it sucked. You know what I mean? Lost money on it. It was bad. Some of the silver linings, we saw good growth on our YouTube channel. We saw good growth with the number of IWTV subscribers during that period of time. But it was, you know, at the end of the day, wrestling is performances of you know, that you need to be there in person to be able to fully experience. We did a couple tapings. Like I said, that wasn't unfamiliar to us to do shows without fans. That was something that we did voluntarily back in 2009, 2010, 2011, before we started doing events where we were selling tickets for paying crowds. That wasn't unfamiliar to us. It was a little bit of a bummer to see some of the other promotions on TV resort to it and act like they came up with the idea, but that's just how wrestling is. So when it came to the pandemic, again, the number one priority was keeping everybody safe. We did the best we could with what we had, but I think the promotions that decided that nothing was going to stop them. And keep in mind, too, New England had stricter restrictions than almost any other part of the country besides probably California. You know, we're not going to go take a show to Indiana to do it for maybe 50 or 60 people. We just, to me, that's just not something that made sense from a business perspective. It made more sense to kind of wait it out. And for the promotions that found a way to continue to press forward, I think that they did actually grow by leaps and bounds during that period because there were so few options. It took us from our comeback show in April, pretty much all the way to August, to pick up any sort of steam, and it was going to culminate with our American Rana event in 2021, and then there was a hurricane that day. That was an even bigger setback than COVID, because it was like we've taken all this time and effort and energy and put all of our resources into kind of getting back to this one big show, and then everybody had to deal with the pandemic. Nobody else had to deal with the hurricane the day of their version of WrestleMania. That was a monumental setback. And I kind of feel like that was one of the reasons that we struggled with Uncharted Territory Season 3. And, you know, even still with the Beyond Wrestling Super Shows, I'm very happy with Wrestling Open as compared to Uncharted. The Beyond Wrestling Super Shows, I'm not as happy with as compared to where they were a few years ago. You know, when AEW and WWE are able to do events during the pandemic, well, their need for talent never changes. If I can't do, you know, we went from doing 40 shows a year to 4 shows in a year. I can't generate the same level of talent in even though it's over the same period of time, if we can't do the shows. So, you know, all of our best wrestlers are getting picked up, and it's like, who are we going to replace them with? You know, there's always that generational churn, but without us being able to do shows, it really put us far behind. Do I have any regrets about taking as much time off as we did? You know, you can't regret anything. You just have to figure out what you can control, and that's those decisions that you make going forward.
That seems like a good way to parlay into my next question, because I'm just interested, like, as a business person, like as somebody that pushes forward, how do you handle setbacks? Because you're going to encounter them no matter what. And when you're presented with a situation, how do you handle it personally?
I will always get in my own head first, right? I don't know if that's just human nature or just an attribute specific to me, where it's like, it's not, oh my God, this is the end of the world. It's just like, these are all the problems that we're facing. And if we don't figure out how to make changes, the reality could be this could all go away. And I feel like I look at it from a realistic perspective. And when I have to tell my colleagues and peers, like, hey, this is what we're faced with, sometimes it comes off as negative or being dramatic. And maybe it is. Maybe that's the way they perceive it. It's not my intention. But, you know, I'm a the sky is falling type person. Well, if I'm telling you the sky is falling, what decisions can we make to make sure that the sky doesn't fall? Maybe the sky was never going to fall. But if I believed it was, and we made the decisions to ensure that it definitely wasn't going to, I don't see anything wrong with that extra work, that extra level of preparation. So I will try and exhaust every single option. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but, you know, outside of wrestling, I run a food truck business. I just found out 3 weeks ago that my food truck has irreparable damage. And so I'm kind of left with a decision where, do I keep my business going? Do I try and find another truck and see if I can find somebody that can build it out? Is it something that I can afford? You know, there's a lot of different things that I have to deal with. And it's kind of like, well, I don't want to sound doom and gloomy, but the reality of it is I can't drive my truck. And if I can't drive my truck, I can't operate my business. That's a tough pill to swallow. But then it's like you're left with all these different decisions. Do we pivot to a restaurant? Do we pivot to a ghost kitchen? Do we figure out a way to keep the truck stationary and do delivery only? You know, do we try and sell it? Can we go to another state and buy a truck? So just using that as an example, the same can be said and applied to wrestling, where there are always going to be setbacks. There's going to be, whether you lose a venue, it's always a loss of resources, right? You might lose venue, you might lose talent, maybe a show bombed because you didn't sell enough tickets, weather-related stuff. I mean, we've had a lot of setbacks, but if you have the right people in the right places with the right partners that have faith, there's nothing that you can't achieve with hard work. And it sucks, right? Every time that there's a setback, I always look at it like, man, if this setback didn't happen, just think of where we would be. But you always kind of learn stuff from the setback too. And sometimes it's like picture like a level in an old video game, right? You get to a certain point and something kills you that you never encountered before. Well, you're going to get back to that point in the level, and from getting from point A to point B, because you've already done that part of the level, you can get there faster. And now you're going to encounter the thing that's going to kill you. You can be a little bit more cautious. Maybe it kills you again, but now you can get from A to B even quicker the next time. So to me, it sucks. It's a waste of time, but it's inevitable. It's a part of life.
Nice. Now, I've got a couple more questions. Dave, do you have any before I jump to my last couple here?
Yeah, just because this obviously is so much of your time, and then you have the food truck business too. What do you do to relax when you can? Is there anything Drew does just to like kind of chill?
Yeah, dude, I work. That's what I like doing. That's what makes me happy.
I get it.
I'm nuts when I'm not working, right? You guys are the working fans.
Yeah.
I love working. I like going to restaurants, although that experience isn't really the same since the pandemic. But like, I grew up in a family with great cooks. Like, I love home cooking, but I also like going to a place and just like being served and the conversation and the interactions that can come from it, and just trying different types of food items. I love looking at menus. I'm always fascinated by like how menus are put together, and or people come up with the combinations of food offerings and pricing that kind of stuff out. I watch a lot of I don't watch TV much, but when I do watch TV, it's usually the Food Network that's on all the time. I like watching cooking shows and stuff like that. I love driving around, but I love working, right? I like working more than anything.
My other business is I deliver Martin's potato bread out here. We have like a little side hustle. And like the business guy and me, I was thinking like, if he was in my area, I would probably be asking him like, what do you serve? Do you need any rolls? Just.
One of the best parts of Beyond shows, it's part the wrestling, but I'm not gonna lie, the food that you guys serve is, God, whether it's the Fruity Pebbles bars or. Anytime it's Denver, Colorado's mom's cooking, I'm like, what do we got over there? I'll take 2 of that, 1 of that, and can I get a dessert too, please? Did that help with that integration?
I think that it was something that made Beyond Wrestling special when there were places like, PWG and, like AAW, AIW, Wrestle Circus, Dreamwave, like that generation of indies. That was like one of those things. It was like, oh, there's home cooking at the show. Like, we got to try this. Then when I bought the food truck business from the previous owner in 2014, I definitely think that it helped us make the jump in terms of having an established customer base. Yeah.
Nice. Now, last couple questions I got for you. I love the commentary on Beyond Wrestling, and Dave and I do a little post-production commentary, and I've been starting to listen to commentary with a critical ear. As like an owner, what do you look for from commentary, both from yourself and your partner that you broadcast with?
It's really hard because for a long period of time, I was the one that would kind of put together the shows behind the scenes too, in terms of like, I guess, being head of creative or whatever. So to me, it was just easy to do commentary because I knew the stories to tell. Mm-hmm. And I don't like produce Wrestling Open. I handle more of the business aspect of it, and there's other people that kind of put the show together. So when I'm doing commentary, it's more from the perspective of a performer, And it's really difficult. It's like extremely difficult to be able to have to pick up on the story and then like perceive it and then accurately tell it. Like all while, talking and thinking at the same time. That's really, really tough. I love working with Paul Crockett. He's somebody that I hold in very, very high regard. He's a well-educated individual, and he's also very passionate. He just, I don't remember if I asked him or if he asked me about doing commentary once. And then he ended up, it was just like, when I was doing the Beyond shows, I would just get so busy with so many responsibilities. And sometimes we would do like the old PWG style with like rotating commentators, and the wrestlers come in and they would just kind of screw around and it would take away from the overall presentation. So it got to the point, it's like, we need dedicated commentators. And Paul was the guy to take the lead on that. And then when him and Sidney Bacabella got put together as a pairing, that was like Gorilla and Heenan. They were just perfect. They complemented each other so well. They're so different in real life. And it's funny. They just, it's almost like that natural animosity creates, excuse me. I did a lot of commentary last night, if you can't tell. That natural animosity creates like good chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
But then Bacabella, he manages now Channing Thomas. So when I can, I jump in the booth with Crockett. And it's a really, really, really tough job. I used to think like a few years ago, like, yeah, I'm great. I should be on TV, blah, blah, blah. But now that we do a show where it's like, okay, but you got to remember, like, you got to plug this, and then you got to, touch on this upcoming date. So then when you have to start remembering the stuff that you have to shill on top of like the narration of just telling the story and stuff like that, it's like a lot of things to juggle. It's a really, really tough job. So, for the promotions that have like an actual honest to God good commentary team, that is invaluable, because we see how bad commentary can just ruin shows. It's one of those thankless jobs, like being a referee, like being a camera person, pretty much anybody that's not a wrestler. If you do your job, nobody's going to say anything about it, right? You're never going to get a compliment for it, because you're at the foreground, but you're a background player, because people are there to watch the wrestling. But if you do a bad job, people will be all over you.
1,000%. Is there
now also?
I think
I wanted to know what. Oh yeah, I'm definitely delayed. What advice have you gotten, either in the business or in life, that has served you the best, would you say?
Wow, that's a big one. One of the guys that organizes the food truck event. So it's cool, because me and him, his name's Eric Wiener. He does PVD food truck events. We bond because he knows that I organize events, and then he organizes events. So when I organize my events, I'm the event organizer when it comes to wrestling. But when he organizes his events for food trucks, because I run the food truck, it's almost like I'm the talent. So I get to see it from both perspectives, where he'll be like, hey, man, tweet out that we've got an event today. And I'll be like, nah, man, like, you already promoted it. Like, people are going to show up either way. And it's funny, because like I'll be up, I'll be on top of the wrestlers, like, hey, like, it takes 5 seconds. Why don't you do it? So I get it from both perspectives. To answer your question, the thing he said to me is there's a difference between the way things should be and the way things are. And that's something that I think about a lot, especially coming out of the pandemic, where it seems like a lot of places have taken a step back in terms of quality. It's like, we're like 3 years removed from like lockdown, 2.5 years at this point. Like, you got to get it together, and the places that don't are going to get replaced by the places that do. And I always think about that, the difference between the way things are and the way things should be. Because as much as I'm realistic, I always have that kind of idealistic approach where it's like, well, if the sky is falling, what can we do to make sure that it's not going to fall? But what can we do to like make sure that the sky's perfect going forward? And, sometimes you just have to be realistic. Like, this is the current situation. This is how it is. And as much as you want to work to improve it, maybe it's not going to improve. And then you have to pivot at that point. So.
Nice. Well, Drew,
very quickly, though, very quickly. Even the start of Beyond Wrestling, I had always, it sounds so corny, but I would always say to myself, the 4 E's is excitement equals exceeded expectations. And I think the number one way to be successful in business is to manage expectations, because If you can underpromise and overdeliver, you create value, not just perceived value. You create legitimate value. And when value exists, people are going to have that connection. They're going to want to spend money. So it's all about managing expectations. That's like the number one thing you do in any walk of life, right? Your buddy says, hey, man, let's go to this party at 9:00. I'll give you a ride. He shows up at 10:30, might be your best friend, but you're going to be disappointed because you had the expectations that you were going to go. You might still have the best night of your entire life, but you expected something. So it's something as simple as that. Like, it's all about managing expectations.
Nice. Now, thank you for joining us today. We are honored to have this interview. Plug whatever you'd like on the way out, especially the wrestling school that you've got on the, horizon. Remember, they are at Beyond Wrestling on Twitter, Beyond Wrestling on Instagram, the Beyond Wrestling Facebook page, and Beyond Wrestling Online.
Okay, so we're going to be in Somerville, Massachusetts, which is a town over from Boston, the day after Survivor Series. We're going to be at Arts at the Armory for Beyond Wrestling Motherload. That is presented by Rock and Roll Fables. That's Willow Nightingale versus Masha Slamovich. We've got the Righteous coming in to wrestle the Shook Crew. We've got Alley Cat and Effie's going to wrestle Teddy Goods and Little Mean Kathleen. Got like a bonker 6-man tag match that we signed. Cruel, who's the new IWTV champion, is going to be coming in. Matt Tremont's going to be there. There's going to be a tag match to qualify to crown the first independent tag team champions. So pretty big show. Alec Price is going to wrestle Ortiz from AEW. Becca's going to wrestle Akira. So limited reserve tickets on sale at shopiwtv.com. Well, we love coming to Boston. It's been we haven't been there since March. And the venue is Arts at the Armory is like acoustically, like naturally, is like the sickest place to see a show. It just, the energy is just absolutely magnified in that room. We've got Restival at the end of the year, 9 shows in 3 days. All the information for tickets is at shopiwtv.com. But it's Pizza Party Pro Wrestling, Wrestling Open, ICW No Holds Barred, Blitzkrieg, the IWTV Special, Prestige Wrestling, Grind, Limitless, and then Heavy Lies the Crown. So 9 shows, 3 days, all at White Eagle in Worcester, Massachusetts. And then in January, right, first week of January, we're opening the wrestling school, the Bio Pro Wrestling School, the Beyond Institute of Pro Wrestling, with Ken Doan and Thomas Santel. Class is going to start that Tuesday, so email beyondwrestling@gmail.com for that info.
Nice. And what else do you have? I'm going to get in Jake rule. One extra question. What do you have planned for 2023 outside of the wrestling school that you can talk about?
I got nothing. It'll come together. I'm not worried about it.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thursday forever. And I'm sure we'll line up our monthly dates after that. I'd really like to do a wrestling open show WrestleMania weekend in LA, because a lot of wrestlers go out for the opportunity to work, but a lot of places already have their shows put together. So it's like, okay, well, here's a show for all the people that came out. I think that would be really cool, but it's not planned yet. No, I'm going to worry about the school first and kind of see what kind of relationships and networking we can do through that, and focus on Wrestling Open every Thursday. Schedule some dates for some super shows. I'd like to do American Run Up big this year. In 2019, we did it at Foxwoods, and
yes,
we did about 900 fans for that. So that was kind of a partnership sold show type deal. I'd like to be able to do it all internally and try and reach that same height.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us. Stay after for a minute when we're done, because we just want to say thank you again. But we'll see you, fans. We'll see you again next week. Have a good.
All right, everybody, we are live with the Working Fans Podcast, and today we got a special guest, independent wrestler that you may have seen on GCW, JCW, Beyond, Limitless. He's definitely been around the circuit. He is 1/4 of the Miracle Generation with Kylan King, Jay Onyx, and Sean Knight. and we are happy to have him on today. It's Dustin Waller. Dustin, thank you for doing the show, sir.
Man, thank you for having me. Appreciate it very much.
So, before you even got into like the wrestling business, before you even were a fan, what was like your early childhood? Like, was wrestling always a part of your childhood? Was it like super in the beginning?
I played sports when I was younger, and I started watching wrestling when I was about like 8 or 9. So me and my dad just got into it. It was like he never watched it, so it was more just something that he was like, hey, I've seen this on TV. You want to like maybe try and get into it a little bit, because I never really got into like TV shows or watching movies and stuff like that. So it just became like a small little hobby that I started, just a little thing I started watching with my dad on the weekends, going over there watching Raw, SmackDown, whatever pay-per-views might be on. And then it led to like, then maybe if Raw came to where I live in Connecticut, they came to the XL Center in Hartford, I'd maybe go there, and then maybe wanting to go to a pay-per-view. And then I was like, wow, this is like, and then it became like an obsession, like as everybody did with wrestling. Like, and then when most people grew out of it in like the middle school, high school area, I just didn't. And I just kept staying with it. And I was like, well, I want to actually like do this. And then there was like really nothing else I wanted to do besides wrestle.
Okay, so it got you early. The bug got you early.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, so at the time, who were some of the people you gravitated to, like in your fandom?
Well, when I first started, it was more just like, obviously, I started watching wrestling during the whole Rock and Cena feud for Mania 28. So that's more really got me like captivated into wrestling. Obviously, everyone like loves John Cena when they first start watching wrestling, because he's the guy that they marquee as their top guy. So I would see this, and I'd see these two larger than life people, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like really, really freaking cool. I want to like just get into this. So I love John Cena. Getting more into independent wrestling. When I first discovered independent wrestling, that's when everything really opened up to me of like, oh wait, there's people that actually like are my size that are doing this. So the first person that I really saw was Ricochet.
Okay.
I went to a Northeast wrestling event, and it was him versus Cody Rhodes. And at the time, I didn't even know who Ricochet was. I just knew that Cody Rhodes was on a show in my town, and I was like, I want to go see Cody Rhodes. And then I saw that he was wrestling Ricochet, and then I saw him wrestle, and I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this on TV. Like, I want to do this now.
Right.
It just made everything like, holy crap, I can do a lot of stuff now.
Yeah, that's an interesting time. Like, because I mean, if you look at that time period, I feel like, especially with Cody, like he kind of really, obviously the Bucks and, Kenny, a lot of people were already kind of really making a mark for it. But I feel like Cody almost kind of was that extra ingredient that brought the independence to the next level. Like because Cody was this guy that really kind of walked away from big money at the time, and there was no AEW. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to go out here and make a different name for myself. And I think that, it's an interesting time to have been a fan, I'm sure, to see that.
Oh, absolutely. Because he was everywhere at that point. Like, he was literally going to any promotion that he possibly could. And like a lot of people were seeing him. So it was definitely cool to have that experience, especially over in Northeast Wrestling, which is very local to me. So I would go to most of their shows and watch him wrestle like every month.
Have you wrestled for Northeast Wrestling, by the way, separate? I was just kind of wondering.
Yeah. That was like the one real, like, I guess you could say bucket list thing I had on the independent. Yeah. That was like that was the real like main company that I would actually go watch with my dad and be like, we go consistently to these shows. So like seeing guys like that I've literally watched wrestle and like bought T-shirts of and taken pictures with, are like guys that I've literally wrestled now and that I'm actually close friends with. So it's pretty surreal. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and for those who don't know in the area, like Northeast Wrestling puts on some great shows. Like they get like top name talent from around the world too.
Yeah, I love Northeast. It's awesome.
Now, so you said, like you said, you're going to break in. So how did you end up breaking in, training? What school did you end up going to, and how was that whole process?
So it's actually so much harder to find a school than you would think, because there's not a lot of wrestling schools around. Like most people say that the Northeast wrestling scene is like the best wrestling scene, and it is, but there's rarely any schools around. Like you've got like the Creative Pros, but those are in like Jersey and Long Island, which is nowhere near me. It took a good amount of time, but there was a school in Connecticut called Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, and it's ran by Paul Roma, Mario Mancini. And I started there when I was a sophomore in high school, so I was about 16. And my mom just said, "Hey, I found this school. If you want to give it a shot, you can you can do it if you want. Like my mom was never like, obviously no mom's gonna be the biggest supporter of wrestling, especially for a 16-year-old who's just started high school, pretty much sophomore year.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Like, why not? Like, and then it was just pretty much just off from the races from there. I just fell in love with it. And I was there every single day, every week. And I was just busting my ass until I guess now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, Richard Holiday is another guy who trained in that school,
Yes.
right? Too. Yeah. Were you around the same class?
Oh yeah, he had a huge hand in myself and even Kylan and Haven's training. Like he's absolutely amazing. Like he definitely took us under his wing early on when we first started. Like he would take us to shows that he would be on and try to get us on small little maybe pre-show matches or something like that. And like most people say that you learn the most in the car rides, and that's absolutely the biggest truth, because maybe you'll drive 4.5 hours to go wrestle for 15 minutes. Like, so you spend most of your time in the car than you ever do even at the freaking show. So like, it's just, those car rides are awesome. And Rich is just an awesome guy. We love him. He's awesome.
Yeah, they say, I mean, you hear a lot of veteran trainers say too, one of the critiques they have is that not enough people will go up to them and pick their brains and talk to them and stuff too. And I'm guessing that's something that you try to do every chance you get if you have somebody that's got a wealth of experience.
Oh, absolutely. I like, but what's the worst thing they're gonna say is no, I'm busy right now. Like I always just think of it like that. Like if I see someone like that's on a show, I'm like, hey, this is my match. Can you possibly like watch this if you don't mind? And if they say yeah, then yeah, absolutely. Like the one guy that I will say that literally will watch every single person's match and give everyone feedback is Speedball Mike Bailey.
Wow.
And Speedball is such an awesome. I love Speedball. Like it's someone that someone that myself, Kylan, Hayden, like we watched this guy on we watched the PWG highlights, and then we'd watch all of his work with like Will Ospreay, all these like top guys, and now we're like someone that he comes up to us in a locker room and says, hey, like, because he now knows our stuff because we've been on so many shows with him. So he's like, this is what you got to do. You got to change this, do this, and like he just gives so much good feedback. Like he sees wrestling so differently, and it's just. He's an awesome guy. And there's so many guys in so many locker rooms that will just like giving back. And that's just what you love to see it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, what are some things to do? Because obviously you've already gone to wrestling school. You've been wrestling for a little while now. What are things like you do to stay sharp? Are there wrestling schools you just stop by at? Or is it just mainly keeping busy with independent dates? Or how do you stay sharp?
It's definitely just getting the reps in for sure. Like I'm very me and Carolina are very fortunate to have like a solid maybe 3 to 4 bookings a weekend. So like even if you don't get a chance to train, you're in the ring a lot the entire weekend. And then it's also going to the gym during the week as well, so definitely staying in shape, health wise, obviously diet and just cardio in general. So I think the cardio aspect, wrestling every single weekend, is definitely keeping up with it for sure. So we're very fortunate to have those reps. But if we're I was already talking to Kylan about if we're ever in different places, we definitely just would love to just stop into a school and if it's $25 a session, just go in there and learn from different people, because you can always take something in from anyone. Sure. Which is the best part about wrestling. You can never stop learning.
Right. Yeah. And there's so many different generations out there, stuff like you might find somebody doing seminars, you don't know. So, we had Drew, the promoter, Drew Cordero from Beyond Wrestling on, and he was explaining Wrestling Open to us, which I thought was a great concept. He was talking about how basically it's almost like an open mic night for pro wrestling. How people just sign up. What has Wrestling Open been like for you?
Man, Wrestling Open is huge for me, especially for me and Kylan. I don't know if we'd be anywhere close to where we are right now if it wasn't for Wrestling Open. We started going to uncharted territory for Beyond Wrestling about a year ago, literally a year ago this month. And we were just Shook Crew, they were the ones that told us, hey, they got this tag team discovery gauntlet, and just go help out, and you never know, you might get in there. We weren't even really a tag team at this point. We were just me and Kyle, we came up in the business together, so we trained together. So we were it'd always be cool to be a tag team, but we started as singles guys. So it was just always in the back of our heads, tag team wrestling would be cool. So we went to the uncharted territories, and we just go there and set up the ring and do whatever we needed to do, drive the hour and a half just to sit there and watch a show. And then it came to a point where almost a month after just going there, Drew said, "Hey, there, you guys want to face the Brick City Boys at Uncharted?" And we're like, "Yep, sure, absolutely." Like, we're here. We're like, he's never like he barely even saw us wrestle once. He just knew that we were just these guys that would just we were there on Thanksgiving last year, and I think that's really like what showed him. He was like, "Wow, like these guys aren't even booked on the show, and they're just gonna come and help out on Thanksgiving night." So, and then Drew came to me and Kai with the idea. He was like, "I have this idea for like this promotion, like the Wrestling Open." Like he gave us the concept, and like it's like open mic night. Just have people like you guys that just come and like give opportunities to people that show up and just want that. They just need that one opportunity because all it takes is one match. Like, and it sounds so cliche, but it seriously is true. Because then we had the Uncharted Territory match. We ended up going on to win the Tag Team Discovery Gauntlet. And I think like Wrestling Open has definitely like helped myself and so many other people just like shoot their careers to the top. And it's just so awesome to see it.
And people may not understand this too, especially if not in the area. But Beyond Wrestling, like their YouTube channel is like it's the second or third biggest right now. Like it's like got 3.5 million subscribers. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And as far as Wrestling Open goes, you have people stopping in like an open night. Like you have guys like Real Yuta now stopping in, John Silver stopping in. So
yeah, and the guys like that usually come in do seminars. So it's that's another great thing is like you get to learn from them and like. It's I think Wrestling Open is just an awesome concept, and Drew says it every week on every Thursday. He's like, everyone better stay here and like keep consistently doing it before someone else rips off this concept because someone else is going to take it.
Right,
someone's going to try it because it's working so well. And like I think right now in the Northeast, we're like the only consistent like weekly wrestling show that's just going on weekly every single Thursday. Like, and he says it every Thursday forever, and he means it. We're never stopping.
It's a fantastic idea. I don't know, like, if people get it, but like, I've been a fan of this for years, and like one of the common things you can draw to actually is like stand-up comedy in the sense that comedians have to sometimes alter their routine in front of different crowds or, you know, finding your voice and stuff. And so open mic nights too, right? You have like your greats that want to like work on new stuff. And to me, it's like an open mic night for wrestling. It makes so much sense. You have people like Silver or someone who can stop in and work on stuff. And then you have all these hungry new young lions coming up trying. It just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, literally, like it's such a cool concept for the fans as well because you never know what match is going to happen. They announce a few matches, but then you just have your poster announced as so and so is going to be here. You don't know who they're going to wrestle, but you just know that all these people are here, and you're like, oh my god, what if this guy wrestles this guy or this girl wrestles this girl? I'm like, you never know who's going to be with who. And then when they started bringing in like you said, like they're bringing in some of the names now. Like they're bringing in guys to do seminars and then work some of the younger talent. Like I was shocked when I wrestled Real Yuta. But it was hands down the craziest match of my life. Like it was such a crazy experience. So yeah, I think Wrestling Open is just growing so much. And now they got their wrestling school coming up soon in January. So that's going to be another huge opportunity because people are definitely going to want to go to this wrestling school now. It's ran by Ken Doan and Thomas Santel.
Yeah.
So like two great minds. So it's just going to be, I like it's Wrestling Open's awesome. And I think the whole Beyond legacy is like literally going to live on forever.
I think you're right. Now we have a question in the comments. I was actually going to ask you anyway if you'd had any major injuries or anything, but one of the questions, maybe you can combine this in the comments. Wrestling is so hard on the body. What does Dustin like to do for recovery? So any injuries and even if not, what's your normal recovery process like?
I think the most serious like injury that I've had in wrestling was recently when I got my concussion. Mm-hmm. But I haven't really gotten like a serious like a broken bone or anything like that, like a serious injury from wrestling. But I think, well, actually, like episode 1 or episode 2 of Wrestling Open, I wrestled Alec Price and I broke my ankle. So that was something, but it's nothing like there hasn't been anything like career threatening. Right. But I think the biggest was definitely that concussion when I got knocked out at GCW about like a month or two ago. And I think recovery for that was just, of course, like even the doctor said it, like you're going to feel fine in 2 days, but just wait as long as you can. Like that was something that usually, like even when I messed up my ankle at Open, I definitely came back way too soon. But that's different because it's like your ankle, like this is your brain. Like you can't mess around with your head because we've heard all the stories, you hear all the things that go on. So I took the month. Like they told me to take 2 weeks because it was a minor concussion, but I took the month just to be 100%.
Sure, that's awesome.
Just to be, and I had other wrestlers who like also got concussions that were like telling me like just take the full time, like take the full time. So I definitely think the concussion was the serious, but it's definitely take more time than needed, especially with wrestling, because it's such a demanding sport on your body that like you want to be 110% every time you go in the ring.
Absolutely, and you want longevity in this too. Yeah, so it makes sense. Like, yeah. So one of the other questions we had here: what was some of the best advice you've gotten along the way?
Ooh, I could say two. One of the best. It's kind of a funny piece of advice, but it's more just it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
Mm-hmm.
That like I feel like that's just a piece of advice that people get in life as well.
Yeah.
But that's just a piece of advice that can work with literally anything. There's no exact scenario that goes with, but always ask for forgiveness instead of permission. It's always a good one. And then never be afraid to say no. You know,
Right.
there's always situations where like people think like, you know, oh, I want to do this though, but I might want to get here. Like it's always okay to say no. It's not going to ruin any opportunity that you might get, especially in wrestling, because like there's like now the independent scene is so like demanding. Like even just 10 years ago, it was nothing like this. Like it's huge now. So I definitely think it's all right to say no in certain situations. So that's definitely a good piece of advice I've gotten.
And what would some of your goals be for 2023 coming up?
I'm not really a huge goal person. And if I was here with Kai, he has so many goals. Like he loves having goals now. Like I think for me, like my goal is just my next match and just making sure it's the best it could possibly be. Like the stuff that's happened over the past year, I couldn't even imagine was going to happen. So I have right now my real goal just to make perfect is we got the Restival coming up at the end of December, and I just want that to be spot on. So I'm looking forward to that.
I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but we'll ask if you want to go into it. How did the Miracle Generation kind of come about?
Yeah, so the four of us, we all trained together. We all came up in wrestling together. I think I started there first, then Haven showed up, and then Kailan showed up. So it was like a good year span of all of us being there, and we all just clicked pretty much because we were all the guys around the same age group, and we all had the same passion for wrestling, the same amount of passion. Like we were just willing to drop everything and wrestle. So we all always said, "Oh, it'd be cool if we like start our own fashion and stuff like that. Like, that'd be so cool if we were like a group together or something." And when me and Kai were offered the Uncharted Territory spot, they're like, "You guys need a tag name," and we were like, "Well, I guess this is the time to do it. Might as well just say we're Miracle Generation because that's pretty much all we got." So we ended up doing that, and then when Haven came into Wrestling Open, we ended up just going up to Drew and just being like, "Hey, like we're just this is all of us. Like, can we just do this?" And he was like, "Absolutely, go for it." So he has no problem with it, and now everyone knows that everyone already knew all of us for just traveling together.
Mhm.
So now they just know us as it's just Miracle Generation. So like it's definitely cool to just have a small idea that we had when we were training now actually be this big thing like plastered on a platform like IWTV. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is awesome. Now it's Dustin Waller on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Is there any upcoming matches or anything else you want to promote while you got a chance here?
Upcoming matches, I think maybe not matches, but we got this tag team endurance tournament that's going on Thursday at Open, so that's going to be pretty unique. I'm excited to see what goes on with that. Friday we're going to be at Grind Pro Wrestling, wrestling MSP in their tag team tournament, and I don't believe in anything Saturday, but Sunday we've got Fight Life, over in I believe Rhode Island. So that Fight Life is an awesome place. You got some awesome guys there. So I'm definitely pretty excited. So yeah, got a good weekend of show so far.
Yeah, people definitely. If you're in the Northeast has some great independents. You can't really go wrong. Any merchandise you have out there right now?
ProWrestlingTees.com. It says Dustin Waller. So you got Pro Wrestling Tees. And I think that's it. That's about it for merchandise now. I got my hats at the merchandise table. gotta get a .com website soon.
That's all right. So that's good. So, and I mean, it sounds to be like mostly everything you do goes into your matches and who you are, and you're living for the moment, man. I think it's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you all. I appreciate you doing the show today, Dustin. And we hope to have you back on again sometime because I have a feeling you're going to do really well in this business. I love your attitude, and we appreciate your time.
Fans, welcome back for another big interview. today we have a member of the Miracle Generation. He trained under Paul Roma and Mario Mancini. You see him almost every week at Wrestling Open. And recently, he, along with his teammates Dustin and Ichiban, took on former guests of the show, the SAT. Everybody, welcome Kylon King. Kylon, how are you doing today?
What's up, Joe? How you feeling? I'm doing good. I'm living. It's a beautiful day out here, even though it's a little nippy. But we move on. We roll with the punches. You feel me?
Yeah, like the snow was an interesting surprise the other day, but I guess it kind of gets you into that holiday season.
It sure do. I didn't even think we were gonna get snow for this year, based off how it was looking. But first snowfall of the year was kind of crazy to see.
Definitely. Now, before I play the intro video today, I have to ask you about that match with the SAT, because you guys main evented that Expect the Unexpected show. It was, if you haven't watched it, you have to go on IWTV. You have to watch the fathers of this style versus you guys who that felt like a passing the torch match. How awesome was it to be in the ring with them?
Yo, first off, like you said, main eventing our first ever show at Expect the Unexpected. That was something in itself that they even trusted that they even throw us out there. And then to put us in the ring with SATs was just insane. The father of the style, it was really it was just really surreal because I grew up watching a lot of their stuff back in TNA days when TNA was early on. It was just crazy just to even right now I'm getting giddy about it. I'm just smiling and stuff. Just even think about it got to work such a legendary tag team and like you said, just innovated the style, fathered the style, and I was just so happy with it. And then when they gave that speech at the end of the show, like you said, it felt like a passing of the torch moment. So we're gonna keep riding, we're gonna keep working hard, we're gonna keep making everybody proud, and then hopefully we can live up to the torch that they passed down to us after that. So yeah,
they were one of those dream interviews that we wanted to get earlier this year, and then when we got them on, it was just even talking to them before we started recording, they made you feel like they were friends of yours. And then as they get going, how dedicated they are to wrestling, and they have such a unique viewpoint that I'm dying to have them on the show again, because we talked to them at the beginning of this kind of whole comeback tour. And since we talked to them, they've had so many matches, and especially against you guys, because I've been watching you a lot on Wrestling Open. So to see you guys getting big there, and then to see you guys taking on the SAT, I couldn't believe it. Now I'm gonna play the.
It was definitely I'm sorry to cut you off. It was definitely really working an older version of ourselves. It's just the way we just. It's still insane just to think about. Yeah, I can't even get over it.
Almost like a Ghost of Christmas Future type thing.
Absolutely.
Now, it's not too many times that I'll kick an interview off with the same question 2 interviews in a row, but we just talked to Alec Price yesterday, and I feel like you guys, you, Dustin, Ichiban, Alec, you're all you got this rocket ship strapped to you right now. So what do you think is key to you getting as far as you have this early on?
Well, for myself and Flash specifically, Ichiban too, for us, it's just we show that we put in the work, we work hard, and we keep a positive attitude. We stay out of trouble as much as we can. We just stay quiet to everything and really try to not brush anybody the wrong way. And I think that's really helpful. Like you said, the whole reason why we even got to this point where we are right now, especially at Wrestling Open, is we literally when Beyond Uncharted Territory Season 3 was going on, we would literally be there basically every week before the shows, just going there to help out every single week, until one day they asked us, hey, we heard you guys are a tag team. Do you want to be a part of the Discovery Gauntlet? Because it was a tag team Discovery Gauntlet. It was like, yeah, we would love to, and then I guess that just shows you how much hard work pays off because we like you said, like I said, we came there early and we got the opportunity to shine, and then we never looked back since. So yeah, you guys gotta grab the opportunity by the balls and just keep running with it.
Yeah, that's what I found success is. It's like being in the right place at the right time, being a decent person, and putting that work in because
Mm-hmm.
all those things going together with like a little bit of luck is kind of what success grows out of because you never know what could be an opportunity or like what connections could lead to things. Like we we've wanted to get interviews with a bunch of people on Beyond. And
Mm-hmm.
it was because of Wrestling Open, we were able to sponsor Dustin the week he took on Wheeler Yuta.
Mm-hmm. And I thank
And
you
then,
because we got sponsored that week too because We the Curls. Shout out my big brother Trey. Shout out to Jalen. They couldn't make it because Trey had got injured. But thank you for passing on that sponsor to us. So we appreciate that.
oh, no problem. But it also opened the opportunity we were able to interview Drew because we've been fans of Beyond for so long and Wrestling Open
Mm-hmm.
that it's like to get to talk to him about what Wrestling Open is all about is awesome. And then to get young talents like you and Dustin that are on your way up, it's awesome to like talk to you guys now because like when we were talking to Alec yesterday, he kept like apologizing about rambling. And I was thinking like, it's not really rambling because when you're hustling,
Mm-hmm.
you just go from day to day to day. So when you're asked about it and then you got to kind of think about it, you're like, wow, I did a lot in a little bit of time. I did a lot over my journey. So to take it
Right.
in sometimes can be like awe-inspiring.
Absolutely, and I really like find that a hard thing to believe for myself too because like at the end of the day, like last year around this time, not to diminish myself in Flash, but like we really wasn't even thought about on like the scale we are now. Like nobody was even thinking about us. Nobody even really knew who we were. Like obviously we had our fans in certain areas where we wrestled at and stuff like that. But like on the scale we are right now, like we came so far in like literally a year, like and to try and cap it off all at the festival in the T4 Summit, we're gonna try to cap it off and become the first ever IWTV Tag Team Champions. So it's really crazy to just think about like, damn, we really was doing our thing because it's so go 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 go. You don't really have that time to really think about it, and I just gotta stop myself sometimes, just really be appreciative and like grateful for all the work that I put in, the work that Flash put in, that we was able to come so far in so little of time. Because a year is really not a lot of time. It might seem long because, life, but it's really not that long when you really think about it.
No, and especially like you or like kind of us where we look back on the videos we've put out over the past year and to
Mm-hmm.
think about where we were on January 1st and like the mindset we went into the year with versus where we are now. It
Mm-hmm.
almost feels like you kind of grow. It almost feels like 5 years worth of growth in that time just because it's like, wow, I did that much.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with you guys, it's great to hear of a team coming out of Connecticut. Now, you guys trained under Paul Roma, Mario Mancini.
Yep.
What's some of the best advice you've gotten from that school that's helped get you to where you are now? Like, what were your bigger takeaways from there?
My bigger takeaways from the school is just, is just having like a good work ethic. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just never really take shit from anybody, I guess, Be yourself, work hard. Like always try to work harder than other than I remember like when I was like myself personally, I first got to the school, um, Flash and my other two partners, Sean and Jay, they was already there training and stuff. But I guess what pushed me so far ahead of them, like in the beginning, was my work ethic because it's like I would just come in and just I would really just hustle. Like even though I was new, I would just like hustle because I wanted it so bad. So I got put on, like, even though they had their debuts before me, but I got put on in like a faster time because I was only there for like about 4 to 6 months before I had my first match, and I think that's like one of the quickest turnaround that they had there at that time. So yeah, it was just a crazy experience, you know. It's just gotta hustle. And then yeah, it's just I'm trying to think. Look at me, I'm rambling just like you said, Alec was yesterday.
No,
But
we love hearing it because, you know, we are the whole reason we started the podcast was we're such fans of wrestling. We wanted a collection of wrestling stories.
mhm.
And like when you get, you know, like these legends or these guys that have been around, they've told their stories so many times that they can just rattle it off. I
Mhm.
like that. Like I'm asking you, and you know, you stop and you think, and you're like, wow, like, you know, to get that part of it, to get the wonder of just being on the rise. Like I enjoy that. So don't worry about rambling at all. I meant to tell Alec that yesterday, but he was just such a good talker. I couldn't jump in there on him.
But yeah, it's like I think another thing that helped us there is just they just told us to just go out and get it. You know, like Paul, Mario, even Richard Holiday, he helped us a lot. Another one of our trainers, I call him Professor Battle, but Chris Battle, you know, the Red Lion, they helped us out a lot. Just hustling, just going out there, busting your ass, grinding. You know, that's the only way you're gonna get better by working hard. You know, just staying in shape. So I think
Yeah.
that's the one thing that they told us to be ourselves and just go out there and hustle.
Yeah, there's a lot of good names that have come out of that school. So when I saw you talking to Under the Ropes about PPW, I'm like, oh, I got to ask. I was going to ask about Richard Holiday, but then right when I was about to write the question down, you mentioned him. And I'm like, all right. But it's got to be good to have those names that have come out of there that can give you, like, it's almost like a senior at your high school going on to like a big college and being able to tell you, like, this is what to look out for out there. And, you know, be able to
Absolutely.
give you that advice.
Absolutely, and just really, I just before I lose track of this, lose my thought pattern. I just really want to shout out to Richard Holiday. Anyway, that's my big brother. Without him, like me and Flash, and I really mean this like wholeheartedly. Like without him, like giving out the advice and like knowledge about what's going on the scenes today, and like how to that's another thing at the school too, just how to carry yourself, you know. But especially with Holiday, he really taught us how to carry ourselves and how to be professional, really just doing certain things a certain type of way. And shout out to my big brother Joe, big brother. So just shout out to my big brother Holiday, and I really appreciate him, and you know, really hope he gets healthier. I know he's halfway through his chemo right now, so best wishes to my big brother, and he'll be back sooner rather than later, I hope. So yeah.
Yeah, we're pulling for him. We had him on, like, he was one of the first couple guests that we really wanted to get because we're such big MLW fans. And when we recently saw the news, you know, we shared it and we were stunned because then it reminds you like that life is so precious and
Absolutely.
these things can happen anytime. But he's great. Like, we know he's going to bounce back and he's going to be 10 times the performer he was like before he went away.
Absolutely, and that's the one thing I try to always remind myself too. Just like God forbid, but this can all be taken from us tomorrow or even today. You know, you never know when your last day is gonna be. And even though like it's a scary thought to think about, but you really just gotta keep pushing forward and hustling as much as you can while you're here. Be that
Yeah,
best version
definitely.
of yourself. I know everybody got their bad days. You know, I'm not perfect either, but it's best to always keep your head up, keep pushing, and staying positive. You know, that's my motto. That's my motto.
Well, here's a question I wasn't even going to ask, but I ask it from time to time in interviews. How do you handle setbacks when they pop up or disappointments?
It's that's like a loaded question right there. It's kind of hard to explain for me because like, you know, every situation is different. But like I said before, it's just all about, you know, okay, it happened. it's okay. Like, and this is one thing people gotta realize too. It's okay to feel like, you know, for better or for worse, like shit. It's a shitty situation happen or whatever. It's okay to feel like that, but don't keep yourself in that position. You know, you gotta keep fighting out that position. You got, you know, the rain gonna come, but the sun and the rainbow gonna shine later. You know, you gotta remember that. So it's not gonna stay forever. The storm not gonna stay forever. Just gotta keep pushing through, and then eventually you're gonna come out on the other side better off. You know, I've been through a lot in my life. You know, even like past few years and stuff like that. It's like, you know, it's a lot, but you just gotta keep that positive mindset. You know, for me, like, you know, I put on a front sometimes only because it helps me like be better. You know, I don't really like people seeing me like that. Like, even though like it's like even that's something I gotta work on, but you know, it helps me out like putting on that front because it makes me eventually makes me feel better. You know, just keep pushing and being positive and try to keep that mindset, even though like I might be in like a not the best of spaces at that time. You know, but even though it's probably not a healthy thing to do, but I that's one of the things that helped me out. You know, just keep pushing on, and you know. But like I said before, it's okay not to feel good, but you just can't allow yourself to stay in that mindset.
Yeah, definitely. We've like, even as we've done the podcast, it was like, I think I lost my dad. I think it was like 2 years ago around this time.
Yeah,
And then
I
Dave
had lost
lost
my
his mom this
yeah,
year too.
I lost my grandfather around the same time. So yes, it's a tough thing. So
Yeah, it's tough, but you keep going on, and like eventually, like, it's not that you hurt worse, it just the hurt changes,
mm-hmm.
and you just try and turn it into a positive. And I know we brought viewers down a lot in the middle here, but I like those questions where you get to get real with someone, because you've probably heard a ton of, you know, where did you like wrestling? Where did you do this? But not like, how do you handle setbacks? Like, what do you do when things get negative? But let's get back on the positive talk. Tell us about Miracle Generation. And I got to get to the bottom of a question that you left me with after the Under the Ropes podcast.
Okay. So Miracle Generation. It's all started with four people. Myself, Flash, Jay Onyx, and Sean Knight. You know, it was like a thing. We all had like a brotherhood type of thing, you know. Even myself and Flash, we had a rocky start in the beginning. But we all four of us just started becoming closer and closer and closer. We started going on the road together, especially during the pandemic, because Extra was like was on the only thing, one of the only things open. But we eventually just started going on the road every week. Every week, started traveling with each other, hanging out with each other, like, and it just became like a brotherhood. You know, I look to those three people like those are like my real life brothers now. And I'm saying all the experience that we've been through, all the experience that we continue to go through. You know, I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, it's just a brotherhood of us four guys. Just like it's a miracle that we're all here, that we all made it. We all come from different walks of life. You know, we experience different things, but we all experience similar things at the same token. In the same token, so you know, it's just a brotherhood. And then one day, we were just trying to figure out, like, because we always wanted to be a group, so we just trying to figure out, what would be the name of the group? What would be the name of the group? And eventually, Jay, he came up with the name Miracle Generation based off of anime. Yeah, that's how the name came up to be. You know, Miracle Generation based off Generation of Miracles from Kuroko no Basket. So yeah, that's how we all came to be.
All right, that was definitely the question I was gonna ask, because you weren't gonna get into the anime on that, and I'm like, there's the question that's in there. But it's got to be good to come up with a group of guys too, because as you're all learning in the business, it's less like doing it on your own. You have these other guys to bounce ideas off of and to talk about, you know, the come up with, so you don't feel so alone. That's got to help you get farther along, I imagine, also.
Nah, absolutely. Like, yeah, without these dudes, like even like just without these guys just growing up in the business, it would be tough. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I'm so grateful and like so glad that I got the experience. Like and even still now, like I don't think I have ever traveled to a show like by myself or been on a show that they haven't been on, you know. And it's just crazy to even think about like that tight bond that we all have, you know, even though we may fight, we may argue, we may not like each other all the time. But you know, I love these people and I would like do anything in my power that I'm able to do for them, you know. Like absolutely. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if you have the same social anxiety as me, but like I hate showing up to places alone. So it's got to help too to always have like, you know, your family rolling with you to, you know, you show up as a group. It just helps with self-esteem and getting yourself out there too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like you said, like social anxiety is a real thing, you know. Even like before I even got to wrestling, it was just like anytime I would go to a new place, it was just like I feel so awkward, so weird. But like I have less of that problem now because I'm with those guys, so I'm able to be more myself. Like on the first time meeting people. So yeah, it's just a real thing.
Now we talked about kind of your inner circle, but who are some people outside of your inner circle, like in the business that have helped you out along the way? You know, outside of like your trainers and things like that.
Okay.
Are there any guys you've worked with that you've picked something up from?
Anthony Green, he helped me in Flash a lot, especially like he was like one of the people that helped us like not one of he was the person that helped us out get to like Black Label Pro, you know, helped us out with that. So shout out to Anthony Green. Even like now he still gives us advice. Like the other day he just texted me something about like a certain move that we did and he was like, hey, maybe you should do this right there. And I was like, all right, cool, like that's a good idea. Let me make sure I write that down and remember that. But like AG, like Drew Cordero, you know, from Beyond Wrestling, he helped us out a lot with our growth, especially like throughout all the weeks of like Wrestling Open and like beyond that we was there. He helped us out a lot. I'm trying to think. I'm just having such a brain fart because it's really a lot of people that really like to me that helped us out. Like I try to take something from everybody, you know, positive or negative. I try to like take something and really apply to myself. Like even like somebody like just like some random person on the street, if they have said something, I'll take what I can from it and try to apply it to myself, you know. So but yeah, those two, Drew and AG, they helped us out a lot. I'm really trying to think. Oh, Wagner Brown. What is Slick Wagner Brown? Without Slick Wagner Brown, me and Flash would not be a team right now. And that's real stuff. So shout out to Slick. He helps us out still to this day. You know, give us advice and stuff like that. So Slick Wagner Brown. Without him,
He's out
me
of
and
Test
Flash.
of Strength Wrestling,
Yes,
right?
yes. He's the head trainer of Tesla Strength. So shout
Now
out
you
to
kind
Wagner
of already
Brown.
got into it, but tell us about Wrestling Open and why it's been so important to your development.
So Wrestling Open is so one day. I don't even know if I should be telling this story. I might get in trouble for telling this story. But one day Drew came up to me, Flash, and he probably went up to other couple guys too. But he was like saying like, "Yeah, I see. I come here like every week," because this was like during Uncharted Territory season 3. You know, he's like, "Yeah, I see you guys coming up here like every week, busting your ass, working hard, and I'm not able to really do much for you guys, but y'all do so much for me." So like I had an idea because we had some tryout matches before. He liked what he saw from me and Flash and a couple other people. But he was like, "Yeah," I was like, "I have an idea to like showcase like guys like yourselves and really like implement them with some of the people from the Beyond roster." And he was like, "Yeah, so what do you think about if I had like a show like maybe like every Thursday, run it like every Thursday, and then just try to highlight people like yourselves?" And he was like, "Oh," it was like, Yeah, we would love that. Like that would be cool as hell. Like to even do like, cause me and Flash like was missing that from XWA because XWA has stopped running on Thursdays or whatever. So yeah, it was like yeah, we would love that. You know, get our reps in and then be able to work with different crop of guys, people that's gonna help us elevate our game and grow to get better. So he's like, yeah, we love that. So then one day he made the big announcement. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna start this thing called Wrestling Open, and I'm gonna obviously if you want to work, you got to sign up for it. You got to sign in, and basically everybody gets get a cut off the door, so everybody gets equal pay. You know, we was like, okay, cool. So we started from episode 0, even episode 0, like because Blitzkrieg was supposed to run during the festival, but you know, it was high during COVID time, so like everybody like didn't want to come, and everybody got sick and stuff like that. So they had canceled their show due to those circumstances and stuff like that. And then the soft open of Wrestling Open happened that night, and we got to wrestle Ricky, Shane Page, and Vincent Nutten in the main event that night. And then on the official Open of Wrestling Open, we got to start this whole rivalry with main event, you know. So and then from there on, we just kept growing and growing and growing, week after week after week after week, and just kept elevating ourselves and elevating the game, you know, coming to this point where we are right now, where we are the Limited Cup Tag Team Champions.
And it's been great to see, you know, coming full circle for the year, like you said. Last year, you know, what Beyond did with Uncharted Territory was amazing. And then I think they've just taken it up another notch with Wrestling Open, because like for real wrestling nerds out there, where you're looking to see who the next big talents are coming up, Wrestling Open is that spot. You're getting to see them go against, you know, established stars that come in from AEW, and you get to see just a great mix of matches. Now, before I go asking you about what your plans are for next year, you are an anime fan, and I got to ask a question because I don't watch anime. Everybody at work is telling me I got to get into it. What is an anime that you would recommend for somebody that's never watched it to get into it? I mean, I've watched movies here and there like Spirited Away, but I've never been like deep into it. So give me a recommendation to start me out on.
See, it's kind of hard because it depends on what you like. Like you specifically, what do you like? Like what type of things do you like?
I like pro wrestling. I like comedy. In my movies, I tend to like, you know, maybe a little deeper of a story. But yeah, I'll tend to like comedy.
Okay, so let me think. For you specifically, since you like wrestling and comedy, you know, a good anime, it's a boxing anime. It's not really wrestling, it's a boxing anime. It's called Hajime no Ippo. But it's about a story about a kid named Ippo and his growth through like his journey on becoming a better, I don't want to say better person because he's already a good person, but like his journey on growing as a person, and how boxing helps him grow as a person. You know, because he starts off timid, but slowly over the course of the story, he gains more confidence until he's, you know, the champion. So yeah, that's a good one to watch. For just like casuals, dang, it's kind of hard out because I'm trying to think of an anime that's not too long to watch. You know, because like most of the animes I watch are like they have a whole bunch of episodes to them. So I'm just trying to think that's something that's not long. When then it'll be easy watch. I'm about to look at my list right now. You're about to have me look at my list right now. So,
well, definitely text me some then, because
all right, I got you.
Not to put you on the spot, but definitely like I like getting recommendations from somebody that's into it, because then they can give you like, you know, this is what I like, or here's something you may like. But
yeah, I try not to base off stuff like that I like and show people. I need to really know what they like so they can have like a good a smooth sailing into the world of anime.
Nice. You want to give them a recommendation that's going to keep them coming back to anime. Not
Yeah,
like, oh man, what's got me watching this like 3-hour long movie about?
Yeah, essentially. But yeah, anime is like cool. It's like it's been like a strong point in my life. You know, it helped me like with wrestling. Like anime have also been one of those things that just helped me like with everything in my life. Just so yeah.
Nice. Now we come full circle talking about Wrestling Open. Let's end on a big note. What are your goals for 2023? What promotions would you like to wrestle for? What tournaments would you like to end up in? And then plug whatever you'd like.
Well, this is not really a 2023 goal because the goal is gonna hopefully I accomplish this goal before the year is over, and that's to become the first ever IWTV tag team champions with my partner in crime, my little brother Flash. So that's one goal. Another goal is maybe hopefully, just throwing this out there, me and Flash can be a tag team in GCW. He's already doing the GCW stuff right now, but hopefully I can make my way over there with him and do that. I wanna go on down south, so maybe Action or Sup. What's up with that? West Coast, trying to get in West Coast Pro Prestige. Maybe go down to Texas. I'm trying to go in the Midwest. I'm just trying to. Oh, and definitely, I'm trying to make Canada a thing. I'm trying to make Canada a thing for sure. C4, trying to ICW, ISW, Interspecies Wrestling. Trying to go to the heart of Canada and wrestle there. So I'm just trying to build up my portfolio. Add these pages in my passport. They're looking empty, so I'm trying to fill those up. Whether it's Canada, Anthony Mexico, UK, wherever I'm trying to go. I'm trying to make it happen. I'm trying to be a global wrestler, next year.
Yeah, maybe Anthony Green could hook it up with Pro Wrestling Noah.
Oh, that would be sick, bro. That's like my biggest goal. Like one of my biggest goals is to wrestle in Japan. So that would be sick. I already wrestled like a Japanese wrestler named Shin Skywalker. That shit was sick. Excuse my language. That was sick because it's like it was so unexpected. And I was not expecting to wrestle him. I got the chance to wrestle him. It's like him and Myron Reed in the same match. It was just crazy. I was like, yo, what is life right now? Yo, what is life right now?
I know it's great to see those matchups. Well, we're excited to see you at Restival. Tell the people where they can find you on social media. And
okay.
Your boys are winning the tag team championships at the end of the year. I'm calling it now. It's gotta happen.
We gonna make it happen, Joe. You can follow me on Twitter at Little Kylon, LittleKylon. You can find me on Instagram at KingKai0610. That's KINGKAI 0610. And I'm trying to think. Do I have anything else? You got
a Pro Wrestling Tees store? I see you got that nice
Pro Wrestling Tees,
shirt
Kylon King right there. If you want some Miracle Generation merch, we usually sell those stuff at in person. So come see us at any of these shows near you. And we'll buy a shirt, buy some merch. I got bills to pay. I got to eat. You know what I'm saying? So do that.
Well, hey, get out there and support your boys. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you again next time.
Thanks for having me.